Welcome back everybody, to the Team Building Podcast. This is the place where you learn how to build a dominant real estate team in your market. And we have kind of a special little episode for you today. It's a short one, but it's packed with content. So first of all, the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Cohn. What's up today?
Hey, what's going on? Super Jack, just coming off Hawaii. We've been there for 2 weeks, so I'm nice and tan if you're watching this on YouTube. Gonna lose the tan, though. Nebraska, it's like 15 degrees today.
Yeah,
Matt, every time I see you, man, I'm just super jealous. Matt, if the audience doesn't know, grew up in Nebraska and has now escaped to the West Coast, California. I couldn't be any more envious of you, Matt Johnson.
And yet, strangely, you're tanner than I am, Jeff, which I'm extremely jealous of as well.
So
anyway,
days.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
a couple days, maybe.
All right. So the episode that we have to share essentially turns the tables, right? So instead of us, you and me, interviewing another top agent, which we do all the time and have a blast doing, you actually had the opportunity to sit down and be interviewed. And it's a nice, short, packed one about your background, the team, outbound lead gen, just some of those things. But tell us just a little bit about like who's doing the interview and why.
Yeah, so I got an email about a week before Summit last fall. Summit is an event that's put on by Berkshire Hathaway corporate for all of the top 10% within the Berkshire Hathaway network. And the interview is actually going to be done by the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Gino. So he takes me through for about 15 minutes just asking me questions. I was not prepared with any of the questions he asked, so it's very authentic. There were a few that were really hard for me to tackle, like how would an agent on your team explain who you are as a leader, or how would your client explain who you are? We get into like the value add that we offer to our end consumer, the customer. We get into kind of my process of what we built out from 70 to 700 over the last 6 years. But I think it's really a value packed, like you said. It's an easy listen. It's 15 minutes, so you guys should definitely check it out. And there's also a video that goes along with it. So if you are watching on YouTube, you can watch the video live or you can just listen to the audio.
Yeah. Yep. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview with Jeff and Gino Blefari.
Hey, this is Gino Blefari. Welcome to Close to Home, where I interview real estate professionals, business professionals about their career, how they got to where they are today. And my guest today is none other than Jeff Cohn. Jeff, welcome.
What's up, Gino? Looking forward to this.
Yeah, great.
Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Great to have you here. You know, I love that flat bill.
I appreciate that.
Is that
Thank
like your signature?
You know, I've got a podcast, the Team Building Podcast with Jeff Cohn, and I have a lot of people that follow it. So sort of my signature image, trying to represent the millennials out there.
Looks good. Looks good. Looks good with the sport coat and the jeans,
Appreciate
the whole look there. Yeah, great. So, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I know I live in Omaha, Nebraska. I'd say I'm just your typical Midwesterner. We have chickens. Just started raising chickens.
Were you born in Omaha?
Fresh eggs. Born and raised in Omaha.
Okay.
Ended up graduating college in Omaha with an undergrad in business, and I'm one of the rarities that got into real estate right out of college. So people would always say, "What'd you do before real estate?" College.
Good for you.
So I chose it as a career.
Okay, was your mom or dad or anybody
My
like
mom
that?
and uncle were both in the business.
Okay.
When I started first grade, my mom got her real estate license and worked as an admin for about 15 years. And then when I got my license, I knew I wanted to eventually build a team. I started off by building a team with just my mom and dad called the Cohn team. Okay. And then in 2011, we decided to eliminate the Cohn team, and we became our tagline, which was Omaha's Elite Real Estate Group.
Got it. So that's just 2011.
Yep, we went from about 70 units to over 700 just last year in 6 years.
Yeah.
So our team's grown pretty fast.
And that's interesting. Talk to us about that progression, how you did that, because
Sure.
That's incredible.
You know, I find, Gino, and you're going to be a big believer in this as well. You have three types of people. One type is the type that's always educating themselves but not implementing. Number two is the type that doesn't ever educate, they just implement. And then number three, which is the most powerful, is the person willing to educate themselves, implement, educate again, implement, educate again, implement, and never believe that they've ever arrived. And so that's really the position I've taken with how I've chosen to build out our team. In 2011, I visited 50 brick and mortar real estate offices. I spent about $30,000 in R&D to go out and learn from the best in the country. And then I got to pick and choose the things I wanted to implement on my team in Omaha.
Great. Now you do also some good stuff with technology. Let's talk about that too.
You know, we leverage tech a lot. I always have. I was the first agent in my marketplace to shoot YouTube videos, and I'd do the walkthrough, and I'd kind of try to do a steady cam with my steady hands, which aren't very steady. Today we do 3D Matterport. We do drone flyovers on every house. We spend $10,000 a month in Facebook ads, Craigslist ads, and Google ads. We use Boomtown as our CRM, which creates our squeeze page, but gives us the ability to have constant contact with our database of 200,000 people.
200,000.
So over the last last 6 years, we've grown our list from about 1,000 to over 200,000. And in the Omaha Metro, I think there's like 300,000 people. So
Okay,
we've got about 2/3 of Omaha. Our goal is to have everyone.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thanks.
So your business, where would it come from?
On our team, we track all of our different lead sources, and so we know that right now about 70% of the business comes from SOI, sphere of influence, 15% comes from internet leads, and then 15% comes from outbound prospecting efforts. But the interesting thing is when you look at SOI, about half of our SOI or sphere of influence was at some point an internet lead.
Okay.
So I would say over 1/3 of our business at some point was an internet lead, and then once it's
it-
repeat business, we allow the agent to take a split as if it's their sphere of influence.
Okay, it turns into that. Okay. Tell me a little bit about your team, because it's a big team, correct?
Yeah, in 2011, it was myself and my mom and dad, and I have a business plan online that I make available to people for free, jeffsbusinessplan.com. Essentially, it's the step-by-step process of how we scaled our real estate team to where we are today, which is I haven't sold a house in the last 4 years. I stepped out of production 4 years ago. We net over $1 million a year in our business, and I get to focus on the things that I enjoy focusing on, which is lead generation, leadership, motivation, and I also own several different business entities as well that run parallel to the real estate team.
Sellers are always looking for something unique. What do you guys do that's unique?
That's a great question. I think the number one thing when we show up at a presentation, we treat it like a business meeting, as it should be. So we show up professional, we have their car washed, we try to dress business casual, we show the seller a lot of respect. Upon entering the property, we always compliment the home, but we always pull out an iPad and we go through an iPad presentation, business presentation, to show them how we're going to get the most amount of showings for them in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle.
Sure.
It's our goal to get the property sold. But from a technology standpoint, we use 3D virtual tours through a company called Matterport. So it gives a potential buyer the ability to go through a property and be able to look up, down, left, right, and have an entire 3D map of real images of the property. We also have something called reverse prospecting, where in our database, we use Boomtown. We can put a potential client's address into Boomtown, and it will reverse prospect every lead out of all the 200,000 people.
Sure.
Who's been to the site most recently, what price point they've been looking in, what their interest would be in that subject property's home. And so when we go on a listing presentation, we actually bring the list with us. We black out all the phone numbers and say, hey, we have a list of 237 potential buyers for your home.
Would you do most of your listing appointments at the house?
Absolutely.
Or okay, so they don't come to the office to
They
do listing
could,
appointments.
but we need to be at the
Typically,
property
you
to
wanna
give
be-
them our opinion of what they
Right.
need to do to condition it for
Is
sale.
it typically the first time you're seeing the property?
Most of the time, I would recommend and train my agents to go on that first appointment and spend 2 hours at the property, walk the house, do the list pres, share with them the market analysis, and then go over the paperwork and have it signed when you walk out the door. And we do a 12-month listing agreement. Our goal is always 7%. I charge a $9.99 broker commission on every house. There is a cancellation clause. We allow anyone to cancel at any time, back to that mindset, but we do charge them a fee for it. So depending on the price point, it might be anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000.
All decided up front?
Absolutely negotiated up front.
You actually flip some houses also?
Yeah, we
right?
own a single family rental and a multifamily rental acquisition business that both flips and holds. My intention is using my disposable income to invest in residential in the Midwest.
Yeah,
right now we're in Omaha.
Okay, take us through that, a typical flip, or how you would find
Sure.
it, what you would do
Yeah.
if you hold it.
Okay. Yeah, in the Midwest, we're getting really lucky. We're creating luck. We spend $20,000 a month. A third of our leads, we're buying 10 houses a month, and a third of those are coming from Google ads. A third of them are coming from outbound virtual callers. I have a call center in the Philippines with about 150 callers. So they can make $22,000 dials a month per caller. We buy one house a month per caller. They have to make 22,000 dials to get us that one property. And then a third of our leads are coming from postcards that we send out. So in our marketplace, I'll buy about a $140,000 house for 70 grand, and I'll be able to put about 5,000 in to fix it up. Our average return on a rental property, our internal rate of return is about 20%. And so we're easily covering our debt obligation, cash flowing around $400 a month.
So you're going to buy a $140,000 house for $70,000. You must have some sort of disclosure or whatever that you give
Absolutely.
to the buyer. Take us a little bit, or through the seller.
Yeah,
take us
so
through that.
everything we
to protect
purchase, we
yourself.
have to disclose. So my entity, my LLC is Dynamic Properties LLC, and I own it with a non-licensed real estate agent, but we still disclose on every acquisition that one of the owners of of Dynamic Properties as a licensed real estate agent in the state of Nebraska. We also are in a state where we can assign contracts. So when we flip, when I say flip, we're actually assigning a lot of these and we're wholesaling them. But what we found is we can make more money wholetailing. That's where you take a house and you close on it and you don't fix it up. You don't spend $20 or $30 or $50,000 on all your time and energy and risk. You just close on it, put it on the MLS. But because inventory is so low, we're finding that a ton of owner occupants will choose to buy a house that's in disrepair and needs a lot of work, or TLC. And we're usually able to make the same margin on the wholesale as we would on the flip. And so we just eliminated the flip altogether, and we actually wholesale a majority of them.
Wow, with no issues from the first seller.
Well, no. I mean, depending on the person's life situation, we might have a power of attorney sign off that, you know, if it's an elderly person or someone that we think there might be questionable on making the decision to let us take the property at that below discount rate. A lot of people are always surprised that somebody will sell their house 30% below market. But when we go on the presentation, we show them a market value and then what work they'd need to do to get the house in market ready condition. And then we give them the investor pricing and we tell them it's 30% below market. And there's 10 people a month in the city of Omaha that say, let's do it. All disclosed, absolutely.
Nice and clean, cash, fast.
Absolutely.
Whole bit.
Yep.
Okay. So Jeff, you have a coaching business too, right?
We do. So Elite Real Estate Systems is an affiliate coach to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And we've been doing this now for over almost a year. And ultimately, anyone within the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services network can plug into our coaching with a 20% off discount. So it's normally $497. They can get it for $397 a month, and it's a month-to-month contract. We don't do yearly contracts. And ultimately what it is it's a virtual coaching solution. Our tagline is modern coaching for the modern agent. And so you come into our organization, you get 4 hours of coaching calls a month for that $397. And then you also get a Wednesday and Friday 1 hour call. So it's a total of 2 hours for your agents. So if a team leader joins us, they would get on 4 hours of calls a month, one a week. And then all of their agents could plug into our agent calls, which are 2 times a week. So it's a total of 12 hours of content a month.
It's great. I like it that it's a month to month. A lot of them, I always hear agents getting trapped into that whole year deal, and then there's a fight and this and that's going on.
My mindset on that, Gino, being that I am a millennial and I do unto others as I'd like others to do unto me, I don't want to force someone to stay in a contract if they don't feel like they're getting value, or if they're the case of a person that's getting the education but they're not implementing it and they think they're throwing their money away. So we wanted to create an environment where we could share everything that we believe will help them scale their business, but not force them to have to stay in that contract if they don't feel the value.
That's great. That's great. So your first team was you, your mom, and your dad? Mm-hmm. Okay, and you did 70 deals, right?
My first year.
Yeah. What was that? What caused that big shift from 70 to 10x in it to 70?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, you wake up as a real estate agent, and I sold for 6 years. I was in the trenches doing 50 deals a year myself. You wake up on January 1st, and to recreate that wheel that generated X amount of dollars to you the year before, you know exactly what you're going to have to do. You know how many calls you're going to need to go on. You know how many appointments you have to go on. You know the work that it's going to take and the sacrifices you're going to have to make. And I decided in 2011 I didn't want to make those sacrifices the rest of my life. I needed to do it a different way. And so that's where I chose to learn how to create leverage in my business, where I could leverage the things I don't enjoy, like paperwork and showing houses, and be able to focus on the things I do, which is marketing, leadership, motivation, goal setting, those types of things.
Did you follow any coach like in the early days?
No, the way I feel like the way I was taught was simply visiting top people and then becoming close to them. So building relationships and rapport, getting to know, like, and trust those individuals. And then they're one call away. I could phone my friend anytime I ran into problems.
Okay, now I'm going to be you. You're going to be the 3-time customer of Jeff Cohn. Describe Jeff Cohn to me.
Oh boy, this is a first for me. This will be interesting. People always used bulldog to explain me, and I don't think I am a bulldog. I think at first glance, I think the reason they call me one is maybe I come across rough and gruff, and I'm sporting the flat bill or coming at them pretty aggressively. But like a bulldog, if you've ever had one, they're sweet and tender and loving. So when people get to know me, I feel like I do a really good job getting to know them and truly loving on my client the way that we should, which is I always say treat your clients like you treat your family. Mm-hmm. And I prove that through the service that I offer them. And I believe, I haven't serviced a client now for over 4 years, but I service them through teaching our team how to service their clients and treat them like family. So if we ever hear of a case where someone doesn't, which rarely will come up, I definitely insert myself into that conversation and make sure that person's reassigned to someone else.
Okay, that's cool. We're going to play a little game here. I'm Jeff Cohn today, okay? And now you're one of my agents on my team, and I want you to describe me, Jeff
Oh
Cohn,
boy, as an agent's
as
perspective.
an agent perspective.
Interesting. Okay. I would definitely say intimidating. I think Jeff Cohn holds the team to a higher standard. Our name says it all. We're almost elite. So if you're elite, if you're in a Navy SEAL, if you're a professional athlete, you're expected to perform at a higher level. You train harder, you show up earlier, you stay later. Your mind is involved, and it is in addition to your body. And I would say that Jeff expects that.
Okay, all right. So you've done all these things now already. Coaching, top real estate agent, right? Flipping business.
Yeah.
What's next? What's the future hold for Jeff?
You know, we've got a couple other things too. We have our call center in the Philippines, and I have a title company, and I have an insurance company. But you know, for me, it's really just scaling out what I've already built. I really am happy with what our coaching product has become, and I think I can have the greatest impact and influence on the most amount of people by continuing to propel that business forward.
Jeff Cohn is a realtor for the 21st century. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Gino.
Great having you here.
It was a pleasure being here.
Yeah, great being here in Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
All right.
Thank you.